Actie. Hey bros and brizzles.
Hey, what's up? We're Lucas and Steve, and welcome to the first tutorial on our producer platform.
Yep. We asked you a couple of days ago to post some questions on our Instagram about the things that you would like to know of our new track Inception. That's what today's tutorial will be about. And to start with, for the people who don't know the track yet, this is it.
This is Inception. So, that's the track that we're gonna talk about today. As Lucas already said, we asked you to send over some questions about the track, what you want to know about the production or whatever. And you picked out some questions, right?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of them actually.
Yeah.
We're gonna start with a really basic one. Which DAW, in other words, which software do you use to make music? And in this case, well, not in this case, for all projects we use Ableton. Beautiful piece of software. We love the oversight in it. And besides that, like the DAW, we use a lot of plugins like Spire. We use Serum a lot because you can do so many manipulations on everything. There's so much control. And that's really cool for sound design. Also using some hardware, like here's the Prophet, and right here, not sure if you can see it, there's a Mooks Up Fatty that we use for the bass, but there's a lot of questions about that also, so we're gonna tag on that later on. So yes, this is what we're using.
Actually, we started making music in Fruity Loops, but after I think 2 years. About 2 years, then we started something new. Just we wanted to change a little bit of our sound, and we thought Ableton is the perfect solution for our unstructured way of working. So that's why we decided to work in Ableton. So we learned everything from scratch, and now we work for I think 9 years already in Ableton, and
long time.
We love it.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So the first questions are really a lot about the bass. So
Yeah, about the bass.
Let's start right there. Maybe it's let's check with our camera hero Oleg. Can you turn the camera a little bit to show what we're using here? What are we having here? It's not only in the corner, but I mean just to show what we're using. This is our sub. Always, as you can see, you can copy the settings, but these are pretty random at the moment because we're messing around a little. But I think some time ago we started creating presets on this one, and we just decided to put our sub preset right here. We alter it
Every now and then.
Yeah, every now and then. Just because we want to do some alterations and want it to be a bit different and want to keep on improving. But for us, it's really easy. This is our sub button. Just press it. Then we get it in the channel.
It starts without channel, so
not anything.
Without any plugins on it, and then it sounds like this.
So that's already filtered quite a lot. We use the Moog filter that's
it's analog,
of course, built in. Yeah, and that gives such a nice and warm character to the synth. So that's always cool. If you have any hardware, try to use such filters because they can be really characteristic.
Yeah.
After that, we start with some compression. To start with, we use a Pro C of Fab filter. It's just to get everything in control, to get the signal very stable.
Very stable, and actually, this is a preset which is found under the mastering, bass control MK1 BM. Actually, we use this one on every because it's a sub that we use very often. So this is a preset that we really like. We adjust a bit of the threshold to get it just a little bit more tight, and the only thing we adjust is the release to this actually, and then that's the only thing that we do for this compressor. After that, we use a classic clipper, and this is actually a limiter that we use on the sub, and this is a really brilliant plugin that we use a lot on every channel.
If you check out the settings right now, you'll see that the input gain is completely maxed out, and the slope is also really deep at some kind of a cutoff point. And if you play it now without an EQ after it, it will sound like this. Yeah, that's distortion.
That's distortion.
We did that once. I think it wasn't even on purpose, but we just noticed that as soon as you start filtering it after this distortion, the signal was even thicker. I'm not sure how that would work with other analog or digital synthesizers, but for us it just works and makes it sound super fat.
Yeah.
And later on we get rid of the distortion just by getting actually a cut on it. This is like a filter. It's EQ right now, but it's like a filter setting. Just get rid of all the high and mid end.
So after the distortion kind of type for the compression, then we use Nicky Romero's Kickstarter. Shout out to Nicky because this thing is brilliant. We use it on probably everything. If you want to sidechain a signal very easily, then you should buy this plugin because it's amazing. And then
one remark, by the way, is you can see with in Kickstart, it's something I'm not sure whether that might be interesting to know. Other people using other DAWs, do they have the same issue that if your project is really full, you have a little bit of latency, and that reflects on the Kickstarter. We have to get the grid a little bit to the right each and every now and then. Otherwise, it won't be on beat. But so don't copy
this setting.
That setting.
Because it's especially for the latency on the external instrument for the Moog. After the Kickstarter, we use just the filter to get rid of the distortion, actually, which sounds actually really nice. Just for a sub. After that, just some gain automations for the build-ups and for the breaks, and of course for the drop, because we use this external instrument only in the drop, I see. But for the break, we use a Reezer, which is actually a sound that I think Lucas made a while ago. I can find it. Where is it?
Is it this? I see a Reezer bass right here.
That's it. Yeah, there it is. That's the Reezer that you the bass that you hear in the breaks, which sounds awesome.
And which is Serum, by the way.
Yeah.
That's why I keep telling. Serum is my favorite plugin to do some sound design. Everything is really hands-on. This is just something really simple. Just made it Reese by detuning everything a little bit. You can see that in the section above the waveform. You can see Fin from fine tune probably just add or make a decline of like around 20. You can go up to 25 and usually it will still sound very nicely. After, I always like to add some distortion to get the signal really stable. I did use some reverb at some point, I see, but I decided to get rid of it. And if you want to make it even more wide, but that's usually not necessary when it comes to Reezers, you can even use the hyper function in the FX section. But this is just really simple, sounds fat, and does the job.
And does the job. And it actually, when I look at the chain, we did the same thing as at the sub, because it's there's a lot of low end reasing, so you have to keep it in control and in control that the same plugins for the sub. So ProQ, a soft clipper, and of course some high end, some low pass, and it sounds like this. So in the drop we use several basses to get back on the bass. So we discussed about the sub, and of course we use a lot more in the low end part. So after the sub, big part of this track is in the piano. is just M1 piano. We use it a lot. It's a very famous, actually really old piano, but then in a software form. And this is just we use it in a lot of tracks. If you listen to our tracks, I think from the start, when we started making music, we use the M1. Yeah. Then we have another bass layered on the M1 piano, or the M1 is layered on this one, I think. Sounds like this. Again, Serum. And some max bass to pump up around 100. And actually we did the same thing. Some compression, some EQing. And the whole section together sounds like this. That's it.
That's maybe a step that we skipped. It's a really basic one, but the reason we sidechain, so that the count of the kick, every time the kick hits the bass,
disappears.
It disappears, and we want to do that because obviously the kick has a lot of low end also, and you don't want that to conflict with each other. So that's why when the kick hits, you want the bass to disappear and then come back, usually as soon as possible. So you've got a lot of power.
I think it's also a kind of a groove that you build in a track. When you can try to just play the bass, the low end parts without sidechain to bypass it, and then you will hear what we mean. It gives a nice flow of running with a nice combination of kick and bass fit in together like a track. So
just for the difference, this is with sidechaining, and this is without.
So the flow of the bass is not there anymore. Now sounds clean, but it's not. If you want to play your kick, then it will get in trouble with each other.
For energy, it's really good. We also use it on a lot of instruments.
Not only on bass.
Not only this, we use it on the piano. We use it on other synths, on leads. In the drop, we kind of use it on pretty much everything. Percussion, not always, because you want it also to be, on every step you want it to hit. So it depends. Although, of course, if you have a shaker and you get a sidechain on that will give like a sick energetic effect also. I think that's pretty much the bass, right? Let's check for some other stuff. How many months does it take you to make Inception? I think this one went really fast.
Well, this one went really fast, also because we the first version we tested it live, and we were actually blown away by all the reactions on this track. So that was a sign for us to really finish this track immediately in the studio, and I think it probably was 2 weeks, 2 weeks of really hard work, and then we went to Miami to test it. And then we came back to the studio, and then just I think 1 week of finishing every part and every detail on the track.
I think what works really nicely for us is when we have the track kind of already in our minds when we start working it in the computer. And with this one, I think I was playing it on a piano when we didn't have anything yet, and Steve walked in and he's like, "Yo, this sounds cool." And from that moment on, we already knew what the track was going to be like and what it should be like, so that when we took it to the studio, we could work really fastly. So I think that's usually a really big difference. I think in our experience also, if the production process goes really fast, then usually we end up with the best tracks. Just if it goes easily and naturally, that's usually a good sign. Then we get a lot of questions about the melody, how it's built up, how do you make a good melody. Well, as I said, for us it's usually just about getting behind the keys and start playing something, or some melodies already stuck in our heads and we just start messing around with it a little bit. I think the power in this track is that it is not the it's not the grooviest one, right? I mean, it's all just straight notes. Ba 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 ba.
Yeah.
That's of course all. That can also, you can also call that groove, of course. But
The thing is, it's just one big energetic run of melody. So, like for instance, in our track Source, you have like the pause between couple of chords and melody variations, and in this track you have like ba 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 ba, which gives you so much energy and so much happiness, or it gives you euphoric feeling, and that's just because this melody, I think it's really characteristic. It sounds really special. It sounds like movie.
Yeah, I think also if you look at the MIDI file, you can see right here in front of us, you see that there's a lot of stuff happening to the chords. There's the melodies actually, of course, there's this top melody, like the stuff that I'm marking right here. I would refer to that as the top melody. That's the one you hear best. But actually, if you play it on the keys, I'm always playing two notes at the same time. I've got a little bit of a latency issue, guys. It's a full project, so excuses for that. But always see that there's multiple notes in the high end, and I think that makes sure that there is a lot of harmonics, and that's what gives it the uplifting feeling. Always interesting to just experiment with that. It's all about that. There's usually we have like a melody already in our heads, but then when we get behind the keys, it becomes more interesting. We can fill up like the blanks and the interesting notes, and that's usually what gives the good feeling to
like the good feelings. Like it's kind of a this melody is built on a couple of course, like chords, but the special feeling to the chords is not only the top melody. What Lucas already said is like we use a couple of notes that just gives you that extra feeling.
I think what also what stands out a little is that every time we hit a chord, and with that I mean when the left hand changes, it goes from this. Oh, where's the sound? We lost it. Here we go. Always playing a fifth on top, and this is just an octave, so that just makes it sound nice and full. But every time we do that, we also make a change in the upper note. Like this is actually two different chords. One is this, and the other one is this. Next one. So between the times we, if I'm having my left hand here, my right hand will do something different every now and then, and that way there's always something happening.
Thing is, you can variate on every chord and every melody. There is like so many choices you have, and it's just find the right order in which chord and melody works best. So this is the melody and chord, and it sounds like this.
And for people who would like to know what the tape stop effect is, that is a beautiful plugin called Glitch.
Where is it? There it is.
Yeah, it's been out there since the moment we started producing, and it's really cool to get some effects on a synth, and the tape stop effect just feels just like classic. I mean, Avicii use it a lot. It's actually a pretty old EDM trick, but it works every time.
Yeah,
it's a cool detail. There's a lot of questions asked about the lead sound, how we made it. Well, clearly this time we went for a little bit of a big room sound.
Yeah.
I think why we went for a big room sound, it's actually the first time we did that, is because we've never done it before. That's reason number one. But also that the melody it's like we see this melody and the energy like some kind of a steam train, you know, it just keeps on going. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
Please don't loop this part, by the way. That will look really stupid. Alright. But we thought if you sidechain that, and that's what this melody kind of is almost made for, you will get a lot of energy. So we just tried it out, worked out pretty nicely.
So we layered a couple of sounds. The massive flute, which we use in a lot of projects because it sounds. It's actually a preset that we made. PL flute sounds like this. Including Nexus Wood Square from Tropical House. To add some body, some mid parts, serum to give it a little bit more presence, and it sounds a little bit annoying when you listen it solo, but it gives so much character to all the other layers. And the main lead is this one.
It's the classic big room one. We started working from a preset from some preset pack. I think this is the BL3R Blur.
Ghost in Machine.
Don't click it.
No, I'm not.
Okay, good. Thanks. Because that was our starting point. From that we started, just tweaking it the way we wanted it. I think we made it a little bit shorter, got a little bit less reverb, still got a lot of reverb, but I think the preset originally had a lot more
verb.
Yeah, verb. There was already a lot of detune on it. I think we also tuned that back a little because otherwise it would be a little bit too dirty for this track. And altogether,
sounds like this.
Also here you can hear the sidechain, by the way.
So 4 leads, which sounds really big roomish, and together with the piano, which is also playing the melody, it sounds like this. So as we're discussing the lead sounds, we also want to show you which piano we use for this track, and because we get a lot of questions about how we process our piano. So for this one we use the Nexus piano Swedish house pack piano Fiesta.
Can't go wrong there.
A nice rack which we use on probably every piano. Again, some soft clipper and EQing the hell out of it, because else it sounds like this. And you have to leave space for all the leads. So this is piano 1. Then we have piano 2, which is also Nexus, but then the famous tropical stack piano. And it sounds like this. So these are the 2 pianos, and for as you hear, there's not that much low end in this one. So we removed it because we wanted something a little bit more aggressive in the low end, and which we already showed you earlier. We uses the M1 for all the low end. So it's all 3 pianos layered together. Sounds like this. There you go. This is actually the base of the whole track, including all pianos and leads together, it sounds like this. Where it is? There you go.
All right. Then there's a couple of questions. Hoe was Koningsdag? How was King's Day? Well, that's an event in the Netherlands where we celebrate the birthday of the king. You can find it, by the way, on YouTube. If you look for Lucas and Steve 538 King's Day 2019, you'll find the whole set, but that's not what this tutorial is about. Next question. How do you create atmospheres in the intro and breakdown areas?
Good question.
Good question, and I think this track is really suited to show you that, because as you might have heard, the track starts like this after the intro. There's a lot of atmosphere in here. Here the beat comes in and we have another bell, but the atmosphere is still continuing, and the way we did that in the start, just gonna grab a couple of synths that we used. This is just some sample with a shitload of reverb. It was already really wet. Just made a little bit weather even.
It's a little bit more dreamy.
You can use samples, but a big part of the atmosphere also comes from instruments. This time we use Keyscape. It's our favorite plugin if you want to get hold of some really cool pianos. This is a Celeste, but as you can see here, I'm not gonna click it, otherwise I'll screw up the project. But there's a lot of stuff. There's pianos, there's digital keys, but also some really dreamy ones. And that's just a matter of just getting even more reverb on it, because that's what makes it dreamy. Without reverb.
Well, big part of atmospheres is built on reverb. So if you wanna achieve some, if you wanna have some really good atmospheres in your track, just found some really nice sounds, whether it's a sample or a plugin, doesn't really matter. But try to use a nice reverb, because that's like 80% of the whole atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
So big tip from us: just find a nice reverb, which where you can work on. Like for instance, we use a lot of the Dreamverb that you just saw. It's from Universal Audio, and they make some brilliant plugins. But we also use Native Instruments, the RC 48. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But besides all the reverb, it's really cool to have some instruments that you just don't hear that often, to create nice A/B between the atmospheres, and like a drier instrument, for instance, what Lucas is going to show you. It's called it's a preset that we called Ziekste Bel Ooit,
which means sickest bell ever. I'm not sure that's the truth. That's the truth, but
it sounds really good.
It was pretty cool. It's something we made ourselves. We use it as an arpeggiator. We use it also on another track in this track. We're gonna show that to you later on. So the bell effect we did with a sample and hold effect on the insert section. Linked this envelope to it, and that gives it the belly feel. If you just turn it off, you'll hear the difference. Here's just some kind of a sine plug, but this way you get a bell sound, and that makes a big difference for this one. Reverb also, of course, and some delay to make it sound a little bit bigger. Some bit cross distortion here also does a lot.
And then all tracks together sounds for the intro sounds like this.
And then we continue to the next part. The kick drops. And I think this is also the sickest bell ever. It's kind of the same preset. I originally designed it for this sound. Also here you can see kind of the same settings. But it's just at least one octave up, maybe even two. And then you get a really nice, actually pretty organic sounding bell.
And then just a very big part of the whole atmosphere in this track is the electric guitar that we, you can show them. It's actually we asked a really good friend of us, Sjoerd, who can play who can play really good. He's playing really good electric guitar, but also acoustic guitar.
The guy can play
everything.
Anything. Yeah.
So we asked him in the studio for this one, and then we recorded several guitars for this one actually, and we thought this one is the best. So you can show them.
So this is with processing. Let's start without. And that's really important, guys, by the way. And that's a big tip. If you're gonna record, whether it's guitar, maybe piano, whatever, if you're gonna record it, it's always best if the guy who's playing the instrument is standing in the same room, so you can just tell him to, ask him to adjust some stuff if you feel that it should be different, because you're the producer, you know what effect you have in mind. So you're the only one who can
coach
the other artist to get the result that's best for the track. And that's also how this went. We just asked our friend Sjoerd to play it in different ways. We got it. He was sitting right here with his guitar. We recorded it in here because the acoustics are really great here. And this is the effect. Also here we made it a little bit more dreamy with some reverbs. That's dream verb in this case for a big part. I also hear some delay. We used a transient designer to
pop out the tick just a little bit more. The attack of the synth of the guitar in this case is really important. So with all the reverbs and delays going on, it's important to just get that tick just a little bit more. So
that way you can. If you use a lot of verb and a lot of delay, the instrument you're using it on will get a little bit to the background in the mix. But to get it back to the front again, you can use plugins like Transient Designer by SPL. And for the rest, there's some multiband compression on this. I think to work with the low end and especially also the higher frequencies, because those can be really harsh and loud in a guitar recording. So that's that, and I think when it comes to atmosphere for this track, that's
probably it,
at least the biggest part. Do we have some other questions?
Well, when we're talking about just one thing, we were talking about atmospheres. It's not that we only use these instruments or these atmospheres in the break, because we also use it in the drop to give it just a little bit more of a euphoric feeling. For instance, in Inception, we use the guitar at the second part of the drop after 15 seconds. And of course, we use a lot of atmospheric instruments. This is a big one. You will never hear it that much in front of the track, but we will push it away in the background, because it sounds gives you that extra feeling in the track, and it's just the way of working. For instance, this is just a plug with a lot of verb pushed to the background, but if you play it in the track, but if you remove it, then you will hear it. Just that extra push that sometimes that you just sometimes need in a track. We also use, for atmospheres, we use crowds, stadium claps. Just go and search on Splice and just find whatever you wanna find. Type it in, search for it, and there's probably enough samples to put in your track to make it just a little bit more special or a little bit more spheric. Thank you for checking out this tutorial about how we made our track Inception.
Yep.
We love doing this, and we hope you learned something.
Yeah, that's it. We hope you learned something, and we hope you'll be with us during our next tutorial, which will be about mastering. If you have questions about this tutorial, please post below, and also don't hesitate to ask your questions on this producer platform.
And if you like this video, just hit the like and subscribe button by pressing the like and subscribe button.
This one. All right. Peace out.